It's late February now and it's coming towards the end of winter. So now is a really good time to start sowing certain seeds if you want to have an abundant crop later on this year. In previous videos, and I'll put a card up on the screen here, I've shown 3 different seeds you can be sowing now for some flowers. So I recommend you having a look at those because time is marching on, and if you want to get those ones going now, now's a good time to get on top of it. I've also shown in another previous video, which I'll stick a card up shortly, about the potatoes and getting on top of those. So if you want to know about how you can start your potatoes off well so you can get on top of those and have a great potato harvest, I recommend watching that as well. But in this video I'm going to show you again 2 seeds that I think you should be sowing now if you want to have a really great harvest towards the end of summer. So when you're trying to decide what to grow each year, I always recommend looking at what it is you generally eat when it comes to fruit and vegetables. And there are 2 things that we really eat a lot of here at home. And the first one is going to be tomatoes. And getting the seeds in now means that you've got enough growing time between when you put the seed in and when you should be getting your final harvest out of those plants. Tomatoes are a really good plant for beginners because they grow really easily and they produce a huge amount of fruit, which just tastes so much better when you grow them in your own garden than the ones that you can get in the supermarkets. So it's definitely something that will really switch people onto growing their own food and cooking hopefully at home themselves. So this time of year the weather is really unpredictable. I started filming this video in absolutely stunning daylight and it's now very quickly turned into a rainy day. So when you're sowing this time of the year, we need to make sure we're sowing under cover and protecting those seedlings as they come up. So I will be sowing mine here in the greenhouse, but if you don't have a greenhouse at home, that's absolutely fine. You can sow into trays and put those tomato plants out onto a windowsill to germinate and grow into their seedlings. There's so many different varieties of tomatoes, and that's why I absolutely love growing them, because I try different ones out every single year. This year I've got a heritage variety and I've got it from Real Seeds. Now this one is a vine tomato which hopefully will have some large fruit and be great for salads, but you can go for your traditional money maker or your cherry tomatoes or even beefsteak tomatoes, which would be absolutely stunning with a burger. So huge amount of potential when it comes to tomatoes, but just remember these plants do get big, so don't oversow and make sure you've got enough room for where you're going to be growing them on. I'll be sowing these tomato seeds into peat-free multi-purpose compost, so nothing too special for them. I'm going to sieve them just to make sure I've got a finer compost for those seeds to germinate into, but other than that, it's nothing special in what I'm going to be sowing them into. I'll be sowing the seeds into these multi-station seed trays, and that way I can allow one plant to grow nice and strong and pot it on fairly easily. These seeds from Real Seeds are heritage and heirloom varieties, so they're not hybrids and they come in these paper packages, so you really need to make sure you use up these seeds each year. So I'm going to go for 1 seed in each station. Not every single seed will germinate, so just make sure I've got plenty to give myself some space just in case some of them don't germinate. Now I've used moist compost, so if your compost is dry, make sure it's been watered before you start sowing the seeds. When you cover up the seeds with compost, just make sure it's a layer of compost which is no thicker than the actual seed itself, because you don't want to cover it up too much unless it absolutely needs it. So with these tomato seeds, I'm just a really fine layer of compost over the top, otherwise they will probably rot in there and won't germinate. As with all seeds, we're just going to give them a really good watering just to give them that opportunity to start the germination process. Normally when I water new seedlings, I normally use this spray bottle here because it doesn't dislodge the seedling and it's a little bit more gentle than using a watering can. The problem is that this doesn't tend to spray enough for the water to penetrate particularly far into the compost. So I 3D printed myself one of these small watering cans, and this has proven to be really good. You can control the amount of water coming out and it doesn't dislodge the seedlings either. So if you've got a 3D printer, jump onto Thingiverse, pick yourself one of these and give it a go. So once it's been watered, I recommend you label immediately these seeds because you will forget in a couple of weeks what you put in there. Luckily, tomato plants are relatively unique and you'll be able to see what they are as they grow, but for a little while you'll probably be wondering what's in there. So I've been using a Dymo printer with these aluminium label holders, and that's proving to be pretty good at the moment, because previously I've used plastic ones and they've degraded really quickly, or those wooden lollipop stick ones, but again they break down quite quick as well. So these ones are proving to be pretty good at the moment, and they're reusable. These tomato seeds will really benefit from a little bit of extra heat to help them germinate. You can use a windowsill and just pop your tray onto that, and that should be enough to get them going. Or, like me, you can utilise a greenhouse and a heated propagation bench. Now, if you're interested in my heated propagation bench, I'll leave a link in a card on the screen now, just to take to a video where I show you mine, but also I'll put a link in the description to my blog post and the step-by-step guide to how I built it. It's raining again. Actually, it's hailing. It's the third season we've had in the same day. It's one of the reasons why I absolutely love having a greenhouse, because I can carry on working in here whilst the weather just goes ahead and does its thing. So while the weather is just doing its random changes throughout the day, I'm just going to quickly show you where I'm up to with a lot of my growing and a couple of the other seeds that I've sown in between videos. So these are the seedlings from a video that I produced a couple of weeks ago. So these are the lupins, and they are doing extremely well. I've only had 2 seeds look like they haven't actually germinated, so I'm really pleased with that. Over the back there you've got the asters, and they've done really well as well, so got plenty of those coming through. Over this side we've got some spring onions starting to germinate as well. They'll be sown out as their little clumps, and hopefully that means I can harvest them all at the same time as well. So off camera, in between videos, I've sown some basil, some parsley and coriander, so some herbs ready for when hopefully we're producing our own salads here at home. And the basil will make a wonderful companion to the tomatoes we've just sown today. And the plant that seems to be doing the best at the moment is my nasturtium. I've got a few that have germinated and look a bit weak, but I've got some really strong looking plants coming through, so I'm pretty pleased with those. And finally, just my potatoes, which are chitting at the moment, and you can see they're coming through pretty good at the moment, so really pleased with how they're looking. At the beginning of this video I did promise you a second seed to start sowing now, and that is peppers. They can be either a chili or a sweet variety, it doesn't matter. They could have been sown back in January if you're able to protect them from frost and add that little bit of extra heat to help them germinate, but now is probably the latest you want to be sowing them if you want to get a full season's worth of growing and harvesting from them. They do take a little bit of time to get to maturity and ready for harvest, so you want to make sure you elongate it as much as possible to get as much fruit off of them. So I sowed my sweet peppers around about 4 days ago, and they haven't germinated yet. It's exactly the same way of sowing them as it is the tomatoes I've just shown you, so I'm not going to put you through that all over again. But just remember to make sure that you cover them up with just enough soil, about the same amount of depth as the seed themselves. Give them a good water and label them as well, just so you remember exactly what it is you've sown. So that's it for this video, and thank you ever so much for watching it. Please like and subscribe, click those buttons, because it really does help YouTube know that this video exists. The last couple of videos are done so much better than I ever anticipated, and I really want to thank you for that, and thank those new subscribers for joining me as well. Please add some comments below, let me know what you're doing this time of the year. These aren't the only 2 seeds you should be sowing or could be sowing, so drop some ideas down in the comments for other people and it'll help them out too. So if you like this content, as I said, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.